good morning, boys and girls. So before we went on our break, we had been reading a few realistic fiction books about families and their experiences coming to America. We actually have one more book that was left in that series that we are going to be able to read today. That book is called Dear Juno. So before I get started with our reading, I want you guys to think about what are the important things that happen in the beginning of the story, the middle, and the end, because that's going to be our focus for today, is identifying the important things that the author told us in the beginning of the story, the middle of the story, and the end, and we're going to do some writing about it when we are done. So the book is called Dear Juno. And just like all the other books that we read, Dear Juno is a realistic fiction text, which means it is a fiction story, a made-up story, but it can actually happen in real life. So it's called Dear Juno by Soyoung Pak, and it's illustrated by Susan Kathleen Harton. Dear Juno. And like I said, good readers, we always want to make sure we're looking at those illustrations to give us a better understanding of what's going on in the text. Juno watched as the red and white blinking lights soared across the night sky like shooting stars, and waited as they disappeared into faraway places. Juno wondered where they came from. He wondered where they were going, and he wondered if any of the planes came from a little town near Seoul, where his grandmother lived, and where she ate persimmons every evening before bed. So we already know who our character is. We know our character is Juno. Let's see what happens with Juno. Juno looked at the letter that came that day. It was long and white and smudged. He saw the red and blue marks on the edges and knew the letter came from far away. His name and address were neatly printed on the front, so he knew the letter was for him. But best of all, the special stamp on the corner told Juno that the letter was from his grandmother. Through the window, Juno could see his parents. He saw bubbles growing in the sink. He saw dirty dishes waiting to be washed. He knew he would have to wait for the cleaning to be done before his parents could read the letter to him. So it seems like he's really interested in what's in that letter from Grandma. Maybe I can read the inside too, Juno said to his dog Sam. Sam wagged his tail. Very carefully, Juno opened the envelope. Inside, he found a letter folded into a neat small square. He unfolded it. Tucked inside were a picture and a dried flower. Juno looked at the letters and words he couldn't understand. He pulled out the photograph. It was a picture of his grandmother holding a cat. He pulled out a red and yellow flower. It felt light and gentle, like a dried leaf. Juno smiled. Come on, Sam, Juno said. Let's find Mom and Dad. So remember, as good readers, we always look at those illustrations. So as I'm looking at my illustrations, I'm noticing something very interesting about the letter that Juno just received. So let's think about the letter that he's holding. Why do you think it might be difficult for Juno to read that letter? Grandma has a new cat, Juno said, as he handed the letter to his mom. And she's growing red and yellow flowers in her garden. How do you know she has a new cat? Juno's father asked. Well, she wouldn't send me a picture of a strange cat, said Juno. I guess not, said Juno's father. How do you know the flower is from her garden? Asked Juno's mother. Well, she wouldn't send me a flower from someone else's garden, Juno answered. No, she wouldn't, said Juno's mom. Then Juno's mother read him the letter. So it seems as even though Juno was not able to read the letter, he kind of got some important information from the things that were inside the letter. Dear Juno, how are you? I have a new cat to keep me company. I named him Juno after you. He can't help me weed, but the rabbits no longer come eat my flowers. Love, Grandma. Just like you read it yourself, Juno's father said. I did read it, Juno said. Yeah, you did, said his mother. So, seems like Juno was right that Grandma did get a new cat. He was able to pick that up by just looking at the picture that grandmother sent him. At school, Juno showed his class his grandmother's picture and dried flower. His teacher even pinned a letter to the board. All day long, Juno kept peeking at the flower from his grandmother's garden. He didn't have a garden that grew flowers, but he had a swinging tree. Juno looked at the letter pinned on the board. Did his grandmother like getting letters too? Yes, Juno thought. She likes getting letters just like I do. So Juno came up with an idea. He decided to write a letter to his grandmother. After school, Juno ran into his backyard. He picked a leaf from the swinging tree, the biggest leaf that he could find. Juno found his mother, who was sitting at her desk. He showed her the leaf. I'm going to write a letter, he told her. I'm sure it will be a very nice letter, she answered, and gave him a big yellow envelope. Yes, it will, Juno said. And then he began to draw. First, he drew a picture of his mom and dad standing outside the house. Second, he drew a picture of Sam playing underneath his big swinging tree. Then carefully, Juno drew a picture of himself standing under an airplane in the nighttime sky. After he was finished, he placed everything in the envelope. So it seems like Juno didn't actually write the letter, he actually drew pictures. But we know we can get lots of information from pictures. So I'm sure his grandmother will be able to understand what he's trying to tell her. Here's my letter, Juno announced proudly. You can read it if you want. Juno's father looked in the envelope. He pulled out the leaf. Only a big swinging tree could grow a leaf this big, he said. Juno's mother pulled out one of the drawings. What a fine picture, she said. It takes a good artist to say so much with a drawing. Juno's father patted Juno on the head. It's just like a real letter, he said. It is a real letter, Juno said. It certainly is, said his mother. Then they mailed the envelope and waited. I wonder how grandmother's going to feel when she receives his letter. Now, these pages don't have any words, but they do have illustrations. So looking at our illustrations, we can kind of tell what's happening. We can tell that grandmother seems like she received his letter with everything he put inside of it. And it even shows grandma's new cat. One day, a big envelope came. It was from Juno's grandmother. This time, Juno didn't wait at all. He opened the envelope right away. Inside, Juno found a box of colored pencils. He knew she wanted another letter. Next, he pulled out a picture of his grandmother. He noticed that she was sitting with a cat and 2 kittens. He thought for a moment and he laughed. Now his grandmother would have to find a new name for her cat. In Korea, Juno was a boy's name, not a girl's name. Then he pulled out a small toy plane. Juno smiled. His grandmother was coming to visit. I wonder what makes him think that his grandmother is coming to visit. Why do you guys think that Juno thinks his grandmother's coming to visit? Maybe she'll bring her cat when she comes to visit, Juno said to Sam as he climbed into bed. Maybe you two will be friends. Soon Juno was fast asleep. And when he dreamed that night, he dreamed about a faraway place. A village just out of Seoul where his grandmother, whose gray hair sat on top of her head like a powdered donut, was sipping her morning tea. The cool air feels crisp against her cheek, crisp enough to crackle, he dreams, like the golden leaves which color the persimmon garden. And again, that last page has only illustrations, but it doesn't have any words, because we know that even though there aren't any words on the text or on the page, we can get an understanding of what's going on. And that was the end.